Envato quite literally has millions of assets across practically any genre that you can possibly need if you're a creative. And I realized after using this site for a while that really the only way to break it down into anything remotely digestible is to go by the use case. So whether you're a video editor or a graphic designer or a business person, you can determine whether it's worth your money, because I spent mine on it. Envato has, and this is not an exaggeration, millions of design templates and mockups available for designers to use in practically any pro application you can think of. From building signs to water bottles or packaging templates, this is going to save you hours. I want you to know that I'm not a graphic designer. I only use Photoshop for like making thumbnails, but I want to make a mug. If I can do that with no experience in like 30 seconds, then I would say this is pretty easy. There's also a ton of textures and overlays, brushes and color palettes, fonts, icons, even 3D models. I seriously cannot think of a single asset that a graphic designer or illustrator might need that's not included. Now look, I fully admit that I might not know what I'm talking about here because I don't do this thing for a living. But from a layman's perspective, this is a goldmine. They also have a tool called InspoGen, which makes like a bunch of designs kind of float around so that you can see which one catches your eye and inspires you in design. This has actually been really helpful to me as an entrepreneur because though I'm not like a graphic designer, it allows me to kind of visualize some future companies or future products that I want to work on. Speaking of business, let's talk business. Envato isn't just for the super creative types. There's also some really practical templates and tools available for business or school presentations. If you're trying to visualize data or give a pitch, these things are really going to elevate you above the standard slides presentation with super minimal effort on your end. If you combine these assets with their web design, email, and social media templates, Envato actually becomes an awesome resource for business entrepreneurs, even if you're not super creative, because it allows you to bring in some style there without a ton of effort. Finally, let's look at the big one, video editing. That's what I do. First, things like the icons and fonts and graphics that designers are gonna find useful. Most of you video creators like me are gonna find them useful too. But for video specific templates, Envato has the biggest and best library I have ever seen. We're talking hundreds of thousands of LUTs, transitions, titles, and intros to the point where there's almost too much. Of course, if you use Adobe, you'll have the most variety to choose from here, but they also support applications like Final Cut and DaVinci Resolve. And these softwares don't just have lame stuff like LUTs available. They've got trackers, special effects, and animation presets as well. Actually, most of the editing effects that you've seen in this video and will continue to see in it have been from Envato. Now, when it comes to stock video, this is where things kind of start to fall apart a bit. Envato has a ton of quantity here. Again, we're talking millions. But that comes at the cost of curation, so you tend to have to sift through a bunch of really crappy videos just to find like a decent one to use. The same goes for their royalty-free music. They definitely take the quantity over quality approach. Although since my last review, they've removed the audio watermark from playing over the tracks when you're browsing, which is a lifesaver. I mean, I would never have really considered it before. And their entire UI has been updated with themes, genres, and playlists to make the soundtracking experience much more in line with their competitors. Most tracks also have additional versions that are shorter or loopable to give you some flexibility in the edit, which is cool. Plus, they've implemented a search tool that uses AI to take mainstream tracks from Spotify or YouTube and find something that sounds similar from Envato's library. This is nothing groundbreaking, plenty of other sites have this tool nowadays, but it's nice to see. Overall, the music has graduated from like an F tier to a solid C. The quality of the tracks is still very much royalty free, and most of them are attributed to just large music licensing labels, so there's no real way to search by artist or to know who actually created the song. The sound effects page is fine. I mean, it's sound effects. There's only so much you can do here to make it exciting, but they do still have that audio jungle watermark over all of the tracks, even though I have a paid subscription, which is really annoying. Of course, this will go away when you download it, but it's driving me nuts. It's inescapable. Everybody has been implementing AI these days, and Envato has been pushing that pretty hard as well. They definitely have the most built-out suite of AI tools that I've ever seen on a single service, with image, video, music, and voice generation, along with some AI photo editing tools. The question is, are these any good? Well, the image gen tool is pretty decent, but I found it difficult to control the style of the image and definitely got some pretty bad results in there. I prefer Artlist's image gen tool hands down. Here's a comparison of two images from the same prompt. You can see how much more polished Artlist's looks, and that was just the first try. I had to generate way more images with Envato to get this one that I found, acceptable. Their video gen tool kept freezing when I tried to create one from an image, so instead I just had to copy the prompt that I put in for the image into the actual video gen tool search bar or prompt bar, and about 5 minutes later I got something interesting. Music Gen, on the other hand, really kind of impressed me. It was able to nail down the style and tone of the song that I was looking for right away. I did find these tracks were kind of repetitive though, and you can totally tell that there's no real human artistry in it. There was no real variation in the track, there was no bridge or anything like that, and they began and ended super abruptly. But for background music, I think this is actually a pretty viable option. It just kind of sucks that you have to wait for like 5 minutes for it to generate. Because of this, using the man-made tracks on Envato or some other service is actually way more efficient, which I think is pretty ironic.
The voice gen tool is actually pretty impressive. You can totally tell that I'm an AI because along with the slightly fake voice, I mispronounce things. That said, this is a pretty common issue for these tools, and it only happens on very limited words.
Still, if AI voice gen is a huge selling point for you and you want kind of the best in class one, then I would definitely recommend Artlist over this. Also, I went back and I noticed that none of my previous voice gens were actually saved on this page. So if you get a voice gen that you like, you better make sure that you download it and save it, because that sucker's not sticking around in Envato, which is kind of crazy. Okay, before I give you my final thoughts, here's some kind of important stuff that I want to share with you that kind of annoys me about Envato. Number one, every time you download an asset, you need to create a new license to use that asset in your project. That means if I use a song as an intro in every single one of my YouTube videos, I need to create a new project and relicense that track for every video that I make, which sucks. There's also no way to directly link and clear my YouTube channels or client videos, which doesn't give me a ton of confidence that I'm not gonna have to deal with copyright issues down the road. I know that I have the right to use a track with Envato, I just don't wanna have to deal with going through the hoops of trying to prove it if they happen to give me a claim at some point. Finally, a lot of assets on Envato are big. I mean, like, huge files. Even if you have fast internet so that the download goes quickly, storing all of these big files can be a huge hassle. I know there's only so much that can be done about this, and you can only compress these big like Photoshop and Illustrator files so much, but it's an important note. So, who is Envato for? They certainly live by the saying, bigger is better. I mean, I haven't seen any site with the sheer quantity of assets that Envato has. I think you'd be best served by Envato if you're a video editor, graphic designer, or business person who uses a lot of templates or graphics. Otherwise, if you're looking for some awesome stock footage or better music and sound effects, check out this video where I compare Epidemic Sound and Artlist, which are my two favorite services for that use case.